Welcome to Unlearning with Laura, the podcast where you get to rewire your mind, reclaim your power, and break generational cycles. I'm Laura Stiles, clinical hypnotherapist and mindset coach, and founder of The Mindful Generation, the place where parents come to transform their lives and live with more purpose and freedom. Let's dive in. Hi, and welcome back to Unlearning with Laura. Today's episode is pretty niche and specific, actually, and it's something I want to dive into a little bit. And I feel like every parent should know about it, and that is the vagus nerve. Now, I love to talk about nervous system science, and you will know that if you are someone that has been following me for a while on Instagram. And it's very important to know about for our daily lives and the way that we react to things and in our relationships, and especially with feeling triggered by our children and that kind of thing. But the vagus nerve is kind of at the heart of it all, and I want to dive a little bit deeper into it. It won't be a long episode, but I think it will be important and helpful. I'm going to keep it simple, so no medical degree required. This is all stuff that I've learned along my journey in the last sort of 8 or 9 years. And from my studies, but by the end of the episode, I'm hoping that you will understand more about why this one nerve that's at the heart of how we show up for ourselves and our kids in those very tough parenting moments can be kind of like the answer to it all in a way. So what is the vagus nerve? It's the longest cranial nerve in your body. So it runs from the brainstem all the way down into the heart, the lungs, and the gut. So it's a little bit like the motorway of your nervous system. So it connects the brain to the body, and it plays a central role in regulating how safe and calm and connected we feel. When our vagus nerve is well toned and functioning smoothly, we're better able to return to calm after stress. So when we're under strain, that's when we get stuck in fight, flight, or freeze. And as parents, this is where it's important because our state directly impacts our child's state. So when it comes to, I talk about conscious parenting quite a lot. So if we kind of just hone in on the conscious parenting and the vagus nerve, conscious parenting is all about awareness and noticing what's going on inside of us and inside our child, and getting curious and then choosing how to respond rather than react. So we don't want to be shouting and yelling and using punishments, but also we don't want to be permissive. And the vagus nerve, it gives us a kind of physiological foundation for that. So if we're dysregulated, our child feels it. And if we're calm and grounded and regulated, our child's nervous system picks up on that and is much more likely to mirror ours. So, it's a bit like a sixth sense. And this is what co-regulation is all about. Now, I want you to think of a time when your child has had a tantrum. Imagine, in the supermarket or on the way to school, whatever, on the way to nursery, when their nervous system is overwhelmed and you can see them having a meltdown. The goal is not to stop the tantrum as quickly as possible. And I know that's what we want to do because of our programming and conditioning and the way that we were raised. You want to shut that down and you want it to stop, and it feels stressful. And it's not always just because of the way we were raised, because we were told to suppress things. It actually can just feel so overstimulating and overwhelming for us. And so our system, just wants it to stop. But really the goal should be to support their vagus nerve. Therefore, that actually supports their whole body because it's helping all of those connected major organs and brain to come back into a sense of safety. If you're thinking, how the heck do I do that? What does that look like in real life? I'll give you some examples. So if they're having a massive tantrum and you're out in public, this is what it can look like. You can just stay close to them. Even if you're not saying anything, just staying nearby in their proximity sends a signal to them to let them know you're nearby. And you don't have to speak, but you're keeping them safe just by being in close proximity. I will just add a caveat to that if you are in your own overstimulated world and you feel like you're going into a stress response and you really need to get away from the noise and it's a safe environment like at home and you need to step out the room, that's okay. Obviously, as long as you return and just, you can say, I'm going to get some deep breaths and I'm going to come back to you in a moment. I hope that's helpful for those who do get maybe really overstimulated by noise. The next thing would be to use a soft, calm voice instead of matching their intensity. That will just increase stress levels and doesn't help either of you. Slowing down your breathing is another good one. So they will literally sync their breath with yours. So they will mirror the way that you're breathing, which is always good because obviously, as we know, the power of the breath is a really good one. And then the final one would be offering physical touch if they want it. So offering if they want a cuddle or rubbing their back or stroking their hair, anything that makes them feel comforted to really help them to just calm down. And in that moment, you're essentially acting like an anchor and you're showing them, I'm safe and you're safe with me. And that helps their nervous system downshift from stress into regulation. How can you support yourself then when you're triggered? This is where I see parents struggle because they want to do the right thing. They promise that they're going to do the right thing next time. Their child has their next meltdown or they feel like their behaviour is really bad and they end up shouting. So what can we do? This is where the vagus nerve can become our ally because there's some quick ways that you can bring yourself back into regulation. The simplest one would be to try slow, intentional breathing. So pausing and just take deep breaths and ensure that the exhales are longer than your inhales. Humming or singing, I've talked about this quite a bit before, but humming is a really great way to soothe the vagus nerve because it runs through the throat and therefore stimulates the vocal cords, and those kind of vibrations can help to really soothe. And then another good one is splashing cold water on your face, or if you just pause and drink something really cold or warm. So just changing state with a cold or warm sensation with a drink can be very, very helpful because what this is actually doing is simulating a dive reflex. Another one is gargling. Now, this might sound really silly, but gargling helps to activate the throat muscles and it encourages slow exhalation. And that's a really good way to regulate the vagus nerve as well. My final one that I say to people a lot, because it's, again, quite a simple one, if you have a garden with grass, is simply just going outside and grounding into the grass, pressing your feet into the earth. And that helps because you're grounding your feet, you've got the element of nature, and you may feel the fresh air on your face as well. So that's a really good way to kind of change state as well. And the great thing is about calming your own nervous system first is that you then can create the space to respond to your child instead of reacting from your own dysregulation. And if we are just straight into that loop and that pattern of reacting quickly, this can feel quite hard to do. I know I've spoken about this before in previous episodes, but I just want to explain again that that's probably the hardest part, is just finding yourself in that pattern of reacting, because that's part of our programming. But learning to pause and trying any of those 4 things is a really good place to start. I personally believe that we should be learning this stuff in schools. Children should be taught all of this stuff, because just imagine what it would be like in the world if children grew up knowing this kind of information. So not just being told to sit still and be quiet, and that they're not allowed to have their drink anywhere near them because, it's disruptive having a drink nearby, and all those kinds of silly rules that are very frustrating. But yeah, imagine if they were taught how to notice their body and how to regulate their nervous system and how to shift from stress to calm, and how, oh, your leg is tapping under the table. Do you want to get up and have a little walk around? Like, I can only imagine the movement in a classroom from so many children. There must be so many kids who are fidgeting and being told to sit still and, yeah, not encouraged to move. But, oh my God, honestly, that's a whole nother episode. But I just feel like we should be learning more about this, and this kind of education that creates resilient and emotionally intelligent adults starts with our kids at school. I know there are some brilliant people doing this kind of stuff, and there's movements going on, and knowledge is out there, but I suppose it's up to people like me to kind of spread the word a bit wider. And it's why I believe that parents learning this stuff as well is very powerful, because Even if the schools aren't teaching it yet, we can bring it into our homes. And then children can hopefully allow that to be a part of their school day if it needs to be. And that's it really for today. Short episode. A few closing words for you, just about the way that I work. And essentially, I'm a transformational coach. And I know I am a parent coach and I work on mindset, and that's my speciality, and the subconscious mind, and do a lot of nervous system work and somatic work and that kind of thing. But for me, it's all about the transformation. So I work with parents to transform. And a lot of people that I work with have experienced trauma or their needs not being met in significant ways and that kind of thing. So when I work with you, it's not just about understanding what's happened to you and how it shows up in your parenting or your work or your business, but I work with you to be liberated from it. So this will obviously have an effect on the rest of your life, and to be joyfully ambitious about living a great life and creating the kind of work that supports it. It's great to simplify your life so that you can thrive. I love talking about simplifying life, going with the flow more, and inviting ease. I always talk about that a lot in my sessions with clients. The thing is, so many women that I know will invest tens of thousands into their businesses. So I've seen people that invest on like coaching and strategy and growth in businesses, and that's awesome. I've done it myself, but very few tend to invest in themselves as mothers. And I suppose it's because we've been mothers since the beginning of time, and no one used to have any support or help or coaching. And I think people may see the term parent coach and think, well, I don't need to be told how to parent because everyone knows how to parent. You just get on with it and everyone's just winging it, which is kind of true. However, we have never lived in a time like this before. It's very different times to when we used to live off the land and we didn't have all this modern technology and stress. So what was the point I was going to make? It feels like every single woman that I've worked with, all the mothers I've worked with, because it is mostly mums, I do work with dads, but they have every single one of them has experienced transformative ripple effects across every area of their life. So you're not just doing this work to be healed, and you don't really just do it to be a better mother, although to be quite frank, I think that's a good enough reason on its own to invest. But people are doing it, my clients are doing this work so that they can live with vitality and freedom and wellness, and to not feel like everything is a struggle and it's like one step forward, three steps back every day. So from there, they make such big leaps, and the kind of leaps that they're dreaming of without continuing to compromise their quality of life. And that's what I'm always seeing with my clients who do the programs. It's been really, really quite emotional to witness, actually, because they've come in thinking, oh, I just want to get some help because my kid is being a pain every day, and I think I may have something that I need to heal from my childhood that would really help. And then by the end of the program, we've worked through many different things, and the knock-on effect on the rest of their life has just been fantastic. And it's just such a nice thing to witness and to see. If that sounds interesting to you and you want support in your parenting and you're sick of the burnout and urgency culture, and you are, I don't know, maybe struggling with high functioning anxiety, stress, anything like that that's kind of going against all of your instincts in every part of your life, then I would love to invite you to book in a free 20-minute call with me. And this is where we can just chat about what's coming up for you, what's keeping you stuck, and how we can work together to create the transformation that you're ready for. And as you know, this will have a knock-on effect for your children, because when we're stressed and we're people pleasing and when we have no boundaries and all of that kind of stuff that affects our everyday lives, when our work is affecting us, it's going to have a knock-on effect for our children, and they sense it. So I will stop there. I will pop the link in the show notes for the free consultation call if you do want to speak to me. And if you do know of another parent who needs to hear this conversation, please feel free to share the episode with them. And if you haven't done so already, it would be incredible if you could like, share and subscribe. Oh, one final question, because the next episode is going to be a hypnosis episode, and I often just use audios that I have created before for previous clients. And I have two options. The first one is all around worthiness. So feeling like you are worthy of putting yourself first. And the other one is dealing with procrastination. So that was another client that I'd worked with much earlier this year. She was struggling with finding that she had no time in the day to get things done, struggling with the mental load. But then once we looked at all of her habits and what she was doing each day of the week, she realised she was massively procrastinating, especially with work tasks in her business and that kind of thing. So there's a great audio for that as well. So yeah, worthiness or procrastination. I'm going to put on my social media a little poll to just see what people would prefer. And then, yeah, based on that, I will use the audio for the next episode. And I hope that you all enjoy it. On that note, have a great rest of your week, weekend, whatever day of the week it is that you're listening to this, and catch up soon. Bye.